Hey folks, it's us, podcasting wonderkins John Bishop and Lucas Southworth.
Although this is a podcast about cars, it is not age appropriate for the target demographic of these films, as we usually end up talking about the reproductive organs of Lightning McQueen.
Alright, now let's take a look under the hood. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Chat. It's the only podcast brave enough to ask the question, hey, what's up with cars? But not only is it the Chat right now, it's also the Chat Side Roads, which of course is the only sub-series of a podcast brave enough to ask the question, hey, what are we going to do while John is on paternity leave? I'm Lucas Southworth, and before we get to our incredible guest today, I am so excited about this guest. I did want to give you a quick update on John, who is not here, but next week will be. He said, I quote, John Bishop, being a dad isn't that hard, and I'm ready to do a podcast and it at the same time. He said, sorry to the other dads, but I'm different. So he's coming back.
Sorry.
You're fine. Don't even worry about it. He's coming back from his paternity leave next week. You'll hear the dulcet tones of John Bishop on this very station in a week. But for now, I'm much more excited than I am for John coming back is today's guest. I don't remember if I said I'm Lucas Southworth, but I'll let today's guest introduce themselves.
Hi everybody. My name's Emma, and I'm here on the Chat, and I cannot believe it. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. I don't even know what to do with myself right now.
I am so excited for y'all to meet my good friend Emma. Emma and I went to college together and are very good friends. Honestly, just knowing Emma and her energy would have been good enough to get her on the podcast, quite frankly.
Aww.
But there is a very special reason that Emma is on the podcast today. Besides that, because I said I was so excited, this would be the first time ever on the Chat that I would say we've had an expert.
Holy. Oh, sorry. Off to a fantastic start, I see.
No problem at all. I'm
blowing it already, y'all.
Your one shot, your one chance at fame. I would say maybe John and I could be considered. Nah, I'm not gonna toot our own horns like that. We're not experts.
Go ahead. Yes, you are.
Okay,
You're the only podcast brave enough to ask the question, what's up with cars?
You're absolutely right.
I think you're an expert, Lucas.
You know what? Sure. I'll take it. But Emma is an expert on one Cars Land in sunny Anaheim, California. Do you want to tell the good people why that is?
Sure. Yeah, so I am a former Disneyland cast member. That's Disneyland Resort in Anaheim, California, as Lucas said. I wore many hats at the resort, but one of them was as a character host. So I have had the pleasure of hosting. I think I only hosted Lightning and Mater once, but I did do it, so I suppose that makes me an expert. I don't know.
Hey, I haven't been to Cars Land.
I know. I've been trying to get you out here for how long?
I know. That has always been a goal of John and I. I think the joke behind the honk jar, we would put $1 in every time I had to bleep a swear word, and that would go to going to Cars Land.
Oh, I'm well aware about the honk jar, and I have a feeling, unfortunately, I'm going to be adding quite a few dollars into that, because like I said before we started recording, I may be a Disneyland cast member, but you could not tell by my mouth.
No worries at all, because I'll tell you a secret, we don't actually contribute any money to any sort of jar. It's it's all a lie.
Insider secrets.
Yeah, you're gonna tell us every insider secret about Cars Land. That's not true. She's not gonna do that.
I'm
So
gonna
I
do
thought
my
I'd give
best.
you give you one of ours.
Oh my gosh.
But I guess let's see. I think the best way to start off would be just like, what is Cars Land? Like, that feels very basic, but like,
No, because that's definitely a real question that I've had almost every time I've walked into Cars Land.
no, I've got some like some with like maybe some different emphasis on the words. That exact question is going to be later, but on just a surface level, it's a part of a theme park in California themed around the Disney Pixar Cars franchise.
That's
Uh,
correct.
okay,
It is a model of Radiator Springs. Although they don't call it Radiator Springs, they call it Cars Land, which
I know.
I we all go through a extensive amount of training on each individual land and each individual area of the park, which I think is really cool.
Yeah,
And Cars Land was obviously one of those uh, lands that we went over, and there's a lot to it, but for whatever reason, they never mentioned why it's called Cars Land and not Radiator Springs, even though it is definitely a replica of Radiator Springs.
no, yeah. Quite frankly, that's going to be in my research. I found that as well, and that's going to be not a small amount of the episode. Uh,
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, like, there's a lot of things in the park that are, raise questions, I would say, but maybe maybe that would be the biggest one, especially for guests too. It's not uncommon for us to get that question.
yeah, just because like, all right, we're just gonna dive into this. You understand? You're smart people. You understand what a themed park is. We don't need to give you more context for Cars Land.
I'm sure most of you have been to or seen Disneyland or Disney World in some context. It's a themed area. You walk through it, it's like you're in the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, one of the first experiences I had, side anecdote here, that I absolutely loved from working in Cars Land was we would get about on the hour, just some really cute little kid running in the middle of the street being like, "This is where they shot the movie Cars."
Oh no, that's incredible.
Yep.
Oh my heart, that's really good.
It's so cute, but that's what it looks like. It looks like you're in the movie.
Man,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we're doing little anecdotes, Liz and I have talked about like going to like when we finally can, when traveling's not a uh-oh whoopsie anymore.
Oh yeah.
Uh going to Disneyland and specifically Cars Land. And I think Liz was like, okay, because Liz loves planning Disney trips just about more than anything in the world.
Mm-hmm. This I do know.
Yeah. So she was like, for this hypothetical trip, she was like, ooh, let's plan like our itinerary for them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I said, Liz, I need a full day in Cars Land. Uh, and she said, well, I've been to Cars Land. You can kind of do it in like a half day or less. And I was like, you can do it in a half day or less. I will be there looking around every corner, like peeking under mailboxes, like looking at every single detail.
Every single detail. Not a thing can be missed.
I will be going on the rides multiple times just to try to get all the little cue Easter eggs and stuff. And
oh yeah, of which there are many, may I add.
I'm sure. I in part of my preparation for this, I watched ride videos for all of the rides.
Oh,
So
good.
I caught several of them.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I will be having a panic attack the whole time because it'll be just too much for my simple brain. But that's beside the point.
Yeah, Radiator Springs Racers, I'm sure we'll get into that at some point in the episode, but yeah, that it's a good ride. It's really, really well done, but it is quite overwhelming.
First, I do want to dive into just what Cars Land is.
Yeah.
Because I think John and I have talked about it a little bit.
Yes, from what I recall, a little bit.
Yeah, because like I think we just not but both of us were like we haven't been there, so we can't do a great job of this, but we want to do it a little bit. And we were also caught on the fact that it's Radiator Springs, but it's not. And I don't know, man. I, you could say this about pretty much any of the themed lands that are like themed around you are stepping into a place like Galaxy's Edge, the World of Pandora, and Animal Kingdom.
Avengers Campus.
Yeah, yeah. Is okay, right off the bat, is what Disney wants you to think. It is the story they are selling. When you cross this line, you are in this place. You are in Radiator Springs. And I know it's not called Radiator Springs, but like
Of course. Yes. Yes, that's definitely what they're going for. I believe so. Everything in Disneyland, everything in Disney World, is not only designed around what you're visually seeing and like the way that things look. It's also very specifically designed around how you interact with the story.
mm-hmm.
So they're effectively, when you enter Radiator Springs, effectively you are a car.
yes.
Effectively, the idea is that you're seeing it from the perspective of the cars, which do exist in the land. Mater, Lightning, and I believe Red exist as characters that you can meet and greet with. There's another one that I'm not remembering that has a
Does
show.
Cruz hang around there
Cruz
as well?
does, yes.
Yeah.
Cruz is a more recent addition, naturally. But there's a show that they do. It's one of the cars in the first movie that put Mac to sleep.
It's the Delinquent Road Hazards, the music one.
No, the blue one.
DJ.
Yeah,
is his name.
that's his name. It's called DJ Dance and Drive. There's a there's a road, like a middle of the intersection, like cute little dance party that they do. So there are characters from the films that are around to see, but additionally, the designers, the Imagineers at Disney, specifically put a lot of things in such a perspective that it does appear that you are a car. One of the main things that I can think of that leads me to this conclusion is that one of the first things they point out in Cars Land that's actually pretty easy to miss is that there are no curbs anywhere. Because why would there be, right?
Yeah.
If you're a car in Cars Land, why would there be curbs? There's no point in having them. So they don't exist anywhere.
Are there sidewalks?
They're not really. It's it's just a road, really.
I mean, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
There are driveways, like into the Cozy Cone. There's a driveway to get in.
Sure.
There's driveways to get into flows. There's one for Sergeant Surplus, things like that. But there aren't any. It's really just a road. There are no sidewalks or curbs because why would there be? There's no humans in Cars Land, which means dun, 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 you're a car when you go into Cars Land.
Absolutely incredible.
Right?
Okay.
I know that's a lot of information.
No. I'm just. This does lead into another question I had. Even if the guest has been transmogrified into a car, or at least are supposed to be
they're seeing things from the perspective of the cars. Yeah,
there are, like, even discounting the guests, there are lots and lots of cast members there.
Oh yes. There are different cast members for every, there's actually a lot of food in Cars Land that's actually really good. I don't know why California Adventure decided, you know what we're gonna make? The absolute bomb.com, the Cars Land food. Everywhere else is also good. But here, why is it so good? I'll never understand it. There are lots of cast members, because there are 3 rides in Cars Land. And then there's all of the different characters, individual like businesses are also open along the main drag there. So lots of cast members around.
Okay, you may see where I'm going with this. If the guests are seeing things from the perspective of a car, for all intents and purposes, when they step into Cars Land, they become a car, sort of. Is there an explanation for the tens, maybe hundreds of human cast members?
Well, that's actually a really good question that I have never thought about until literally right now. Which I'm sure I'm going to say so much this podcast. I don't know. I suppose that because they are an intricate part of the land, they're just citizens of Radiator Springs, I suppose. So maybe they are cars too. I'm not sure. But maybe it's supposed to be kind of the way that you're like an outsider coming into this, kind of podunk town a little bit, kind of the way that Lightning did in the first movie. Maybe it's supposed to be like that. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, okay.
That's my best guess right there, is that they're effectively citizens of the land. Which is true for a lot of other places in Disneyland and California Adventure too, especially like Galaxy's Edge. Like those cast members are citizens of Batuu. They're not. They're immersed in the land much more than others, I would say.
Now, I think this was literally John and I's theory when we talked about it.
All right, here we go.
I'm gonna run it by you, and for anyone who doesn't remember, probably me also, so I'm probably going to be saying something vaguely different. I think the conclusion we came to, or at least a conclusion, a possibility, was that specifically because it's called Cars Land and not Radiator Springs, I think but it's also supposed to like have canonically, that is the real Lightning McQueen, that is the real Red the Fire Truck, Cruz Ramirez, Mater, etc.
Of course they are, yeah.
I think what we decided was that when you step into Cars Land, what happens is you're still stepping into the Cars verse, if you will.
Sure.
But you're not stepping into Radiator Springs. You're in fact stepping into a recreation of Radiator Springs that has been made into a theme park, almost like, did you ever go like on a field trip to like an old fort or something when you were like, how they have people like walking around like, I'm going to go milk a cow and everything.
Yeah, I went to like Williamsburg and stuff like that as a little kid.
Yeah, like exactly like that. So like you're still being transported into the Cars verse, you still are potentially being turned into a car, and or these cast members are all representative of Cars. But because it's called Cars Land, you're even though you're going to the Cars verse, you're still going to a theme park inside the Cars verse, is I think what we decided.
Holy God, that is the most meta thing I've heard.
Yeah, it is.
Holy God. I mean, that's definitely possible. I would say probably, I think since the parks kind of ask you to have a little more faith in the story, possibly that may be an that might be overthinking, which I don't want to accuse you of.
Me on the Cars podcast?
I know, never. But I think, the idea of Disneyland and the Disney parks is it asks you to put aside like so much. What is the phrase I'm thinking of?
Suspend your disbelief.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. That was really difficult. Anyway, since they're asking you to suspend disbelief so much, I think that, I think that would make sense why it's called Cars Land, but maybe, I don't know, man.
No, yeah.
Oh my God. I think that they may be asking you to suspend disbelief to the point where maybe that is a little bit of a stretch. You might want to stretch before you reach that far.
Absolutely. Like let me tell you, I, Lucas, know that the story of Cars Land is you step in and you're like, it's Radiator Springs. Cool. It's like in the movie.
Yep.
And like, that's it. But I don't know. They decided to call it Cars Land, so I get to have a little bit of fun
Yeah,
on my Cars podcast.
yeah, it's absolutely bananas why they didn't just call it Radiator Springs.
It's just like, I agree with you fully, because like, Radiator Springs has name recognition.
It's
You know,
so
like,
odd. It's one of the very few guest questions that I got regularly that I could not answer. There are I can't even begin to tell you how many questions, how many niche things that you just kind of have to know as a Disney cast member, because of the amount of interest and people who are like huge fans of one very particular movie or all of the movies sometimes, that just fall under the Disney umbrella. But you have to have a lot in your back pocket in order to answer a lot of questions. And that was one of them regularly that I would get that I could just straight up could not answer. It was I don't know the answer. So, I mean, that theory is the best one that we've got so far, believe it or not.
I think you do know your answer now, is what we're getting to, and that's what Emma said, and that's what she meant by saying that. So,
yeah. There we go.
But let's get right into the rides. I'm so excited to get into the rides.
I will say the rides in Cars Land are really fun. Like, I really enjoy them.
No, yeah, like I said, I watched those ride videos of them, and like, I'm not as big of a theme park person as Liz, but
Sure.
like, I was watching them and I was like, this does seem like just a lot of fun to be pulled around by a baby tractor or whatever.
They're just a good freaking time. Like, those those rides are just a really good time.
And the first one I want to talk about is, just to go ahead and get it out of the way.
Yep.
Is one that isn't there anymore.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm sure you know about it either way. I don't know if this was. Were you ever there while Luigi's Flying Tires was there?
I was not a cast member, but I did ride it. I was there as a guest well before I was a cast member, and I did ride it, and it, without being rude, I'll say, I do understand why they got rid of it.
Yeah, that's kind of what I read about a little bit.
Yeah.
But I do want to give a little context for this ride, because just like purely mechanically what it is, discounting whatever issues people may or may not have had with it, does seem like a really cool idea for a ride.
Oh yeah, it was very innovative. It was if it had worked, it would have been really cool.
Yeah.
But go ahead, you tell the people.
It seems like the basic idea was basically they turned a big stretch of like land into a giant air hockey table by having lots and lots and lots of little vents. And then you got to sit on a tire and be the puck on an air hockey table.
Yeah, it's effectively like a really big bumper cars.
Yeah.
But you weren't a car, you were a tire?
Yes. Wild that there is a ride that exists in the it's bumper cars as Cars Land, but they didn't do bumper cars, they did bumper tires. But I guess I get it, because they're people and they would be just hurting each other.
Well, yeah, I think
got there.
That's carnage.
Yeah.
in the grand scheme of the Cars universe, having bumper cars just seems like just absolutely brutal to have as something, as an attraction that you can just willingly go to.
Yeah, I mean, they do the like Demolition Derby Crazy Eights and Cars 3, but like those are like grizzled adults.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's a different vibe than just being like, let's go have fun smashing up some cars in Cars Land ?
Yeah, I understand why they don't do it now.
It didn't work there's a clear reason why it was tires instead of cars.
And also, you controlled the tire by just leaning, like distributing your body weight would make it go, which also seems like a really, really cool idea.
You know, that's a fantastic way to describe it, because most people who have ridden the ride, myself included, would describe it as trying to drive it with your butt.
Mm. Now
You don't
that's
really lean, you kind of scoot around. It's very
ooh.
weird. and difficult, and the mechanics didn't quite work, so yeah.
I've heard that oftentimes there were giant clumps of tires from which you couldn't escape. But diving into this ride,
Yeah.
we I know we just said, oh, it makes sense that they're tires bumping into each other instead of cars,
Right.
but also they are tires,
Yeah, does it make sense?
and I've done some research, and I'll go ahead and toss it to the unnamed wiki quote of the day segment
Oh, hell
of the
yeah.
week.
Here we go, baby. This is what I was waiting for.
We are going over to worldofcarsdrive-in.fandom.com/wiki/Luigi's Flying Tires, and on it, this has quotations around it, so I imagine this was an officially released like story of the ride at some point. And I would just like to read to you, but it's a little lengthy, but I think it's worth reading the whole thing here.
I'd really like to know, since I don't know what the canonical story of the ride is. I do know the other three, but I absolutely do not have. I couldn't even begin to guess about this one, to be honest.
Well, it's simple, Emma. I'll tell you.
Why wouldn't it be?
It starts. What's the story behind the mysterious flying tires? No one knows their secret for sure, but the tradition of the Festival of the Flying Tires dates back to the 1930s, when Luigi's uncle Topolino ordered a shipment of the Fettuccine Tire Company's new, I'm going to butcher this, Cuscino d'Aria tires. To the amazement of the residents of Topolino's small Italian village, when the tires were unloaded, they began to mysteriously float off the ground and gracefully move around as if they were dancing.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. To celebrate this miraculous event, the villagers put up festive banners, balloons, and bunting. With the addition of some traditional Italian music, the Festival of the Flying Tires was born. And then it goes on to say Luigi and Guido just brought it over from Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And when they ordered the tires, yeah, they floated in Radiator Springs too. So boom,
What
bam,
an
bam, we're in.
absolutely bonkers story.
The story is just, yeah, these tires fly for some reason. I don't know, man. Your guess is as good as ours.
Does that have some... I don't want to get too deep into this.
Sure.
But I'm about to, because the only other flying car character that we know of is Mater. So, how does that work? Are they inferring that somehow Mater's godlike powers that we have, that you, not we, you
sure
have established on this program
that you have no association with?
Not just that. Is that? I don't even know what my question is, man.
I mean, I'm so glad you said that, because literally that was my exact first thought.
Oh, I've been listening.
Was in UFM, Unidentified Flying Mater, the Mater's Tall Tale. He was taught how to fly by the little UFO, and he was just
sure was.
Yeah, I can just do this. And it's never expanded upon whatsoever. So, far be it from me to go against my, not Emma's, theory that Mater has godlike abilities, but maybe Mater just he got his tires mixed up, and he got a pair of Cuscino d'Aria tires from Fettuccine Tire Company on accident, and now he can fly, and that's fine, because these tires can fly, and that's fine, because the tires can fly.
Now, I will add that these tires are giant.
They are giant.
They have to be, because they're, I mean, you know, they're also ride vehicles, so they fit two people. So these tires that float or fly, or whichever word we're using, do in fact also fit no car ever, unless there are such things as giant cars.
Yeah, like maybe like some big construction equipment, because again, I watched the video. I also watched a ride video of this now defunct ride.
Yeah, then things are big.
Yeah, they gotta fit folks on them. So,
Like two full-grown adults sitting next to each other.
so yeah, I didn't fully think that one through. You're absolutely right.
Which just
But
is bananas, because that really just opens. One thing I will say that I adore about Cars Land is that it creates so many more questions than it answers in every turn. Every way, shape, and form. Oh yeah, we haven't even scratched the surface, man.
yeah, we have not even begun to Cars Land yet.
Oh, God bless it.
I don't even know how much we can say about the flying tires because, like, wild implications, but like, it's kind of open and shut. Like, there are tires that fly in the cars first. This affects things, but I don't know. I don't know how. People seem fine with it.
Somehow, it really just kind of escapes, right? Like, it just really like flies right under everyone.
Yeah.
I hate myself for saying that, but it does. It flies under the radar in just this really, really, really special way that only Cars Land can create in its phenomenal way to answer so many less questions than it creates.
Yes, absolutely. So I think we're honest to God good to move on. I'm sure John and I will come back every once in a while to, they're flying, they're canonically just tires that fly and dance.
Oh, please do.
But but for now, I think that's about all we can say about them.
Please
Is that
do.
they exist.
Well, if we're moving on to the next ride in that area,
Go for it.
whose name is escaping me.
Is it the one that replaced it?
Correct.
Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters?
Thank you.
I do believe this is, she will correct me because I'm sure she can hear me. Liz's favorite attraction in Cars Land because the cars dance, and she thinks it's very funny. She likes it a lot.
It's awfully cute. I really like that ride. It's really fun. It's a trackless ride where you are sitting in one of the cars from Luigi's family, and they dance like in the second Cars movie, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, they go to Luigi and Guido's hometown, and there's a big festival. Yeah.
Yep, and they do a nice little dance, and it is just really cute.
You did mention my biggest issue with this ride already. Not issue, question. You do sit in the car.
You do. Most of them also have luggage on the back of them.
Huh.
Yeah,
now, what they got
not all
most?
of them, but some of them. Yeah, right? And it's like a human-sized luggage, too.
Okay,
but
right
you do
off the
sit
bat.
in... Yeah, well... Yeah, that's neither here nor there, because that just, like I said, more questions than answers. But yes, you do sit inside of the cars.
Okay. Right off the bat, I can see a potential answer to this.
Okay.
And I don't know that this is the official one or not. I could see that the theming of the ride is that for the ride, you are that car. You are not sitting in the car.
That would be correct.
Okay.
That is what you're being asked to believe.
And I'm fully willing to accept, like, because like this podcast has to like follow some sort of code of like, we've got to respect the story they are telling.
Sure.
Like we can and probably do and probably will do things like, I don't care what the story is. You're a human sitting in a car when you shouldn't be able to.
Right.
But like, what the whole point of the podcast is, we are unpacking the story they're telling. So I'm willing to look past it, at least for now. Maybe when John's back, he'll force me to not accept it.
Good luck, John.
It won't be that hard, quite frankly. But
never mind, I take it back, John.
Bad luck, John. So I'm willing to not get into that, because that's also the case with what is it, Radiator Springs Racers? Is that the title of it?
That's correct.
Okay.
Technically, it's also true for Oh, Mater's Ride, which the name is escaping me again. It's been a very long time since I've been in Disneyland.
You're totally fine. I only know them because I literally have them pulled up.
Yep.
Mater's Junkyard Jamboree.
Thank you. You're not sitting in the tractor, but you're sitting in the hitch for the tractor.
Yeah, they're pulling you behind them in a thing. Yeah,
Yes.
but kind of getting into Mater's Junkyard Jamboree, because there's a subject about both of these I want to talk about a little bit.
About both Luigi's Rock and Roadsters and Mater's Junkyard Jamboree.
And now that I think about it, a little bit Flying Tires as well. But in just to give you some context, Mater's Junkyard Jamboree, there are a bunch of baby tractors. You sit in the thing behind them, and they go and they sort of whip you back and forth, and it's good fun.
It's kind of like one of those egg scrambler rides at the fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like one of those. It's really fun. You get whipped around and you don't know where you are, and that's the whole thing. And Mater sings a real good yeehaw song. He also does the safety instructions for the ride, which means he also does them in Spanish.
Yes, that is a tiny detail I did want to bring up, because in the ride video they did the full cue, and I did get to hear Mater speaking Spanish. Period. That's worth the price of admission right there, folks.
Damas y caballeros.
It's really it sounds exactly how you expect it to sound, is what I'd say.
Bienvenidos para todos.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Emma.
That's what it sounds like. I heard that for a full day in 9-5 one day, because we stand right next to it. That's where the meet and greet is.
But the sort of story of that one, and correct me if I'm wrong, is like you're at a hoedown sort of, and the tractors are kind of dancing. Okay.
Yes, that's accurate.
It's very interesting to me that, counting Luigi's Flying Tires, 3 out of the 4 like rides in Cars Land have been themed around cars, tractors, or tires dancing.
It's true. I didn't actually think about that.
Yeah, like that's just like to get a little, I don't know, pompous, I guess. It speaks to something in the Cars culture almost, to me, that, like, I don't know, dance seems to be maybe more important than we gave it credit for. That what they are putting forth for people to do in this, and as they visit Radiator Springs or Cars Land, is dance and learn like the traditional hoedown dance, the traditional Italian car dance, or join this festival of like a flying dancing tire. Like, I don't know. That's one of those things that like feels very interesting to me, that I could see our listeners not actually thinking is that interesting.
I mean, it's just probably Imagineers being. I can't even imagine how difficult the Imagineering job is in order to like create. Yeah, kind of like this is a separate world that we're inviting you into, and we're asking you to see these characters in their home, or in an extension of their home, in the case of Luigi and Guido, who obviously are from Italy, but
yeah,
it's asking you for sure, like to kind of meet you halfway with understanding the culture of the cars. I mean, it's their world. You're just visiting.
Yeah, like it feels almost like, I think what I was describing earlier about like how I feel like I would need a full day, maybe more, in Cars Land, is like it feels almost anthropological to me.
It kind of is. I think it's I think it's funny. One of the most people get on Galaxy's Edge for being like one of the most themed areas in the park, but it's interesting because Cars Land kind of is too, a little bit, but it's only because it's it's really asking you to step into an entirely different place.
Yeah, and this is definitely going to sound like me tooting my own horn, but like I feel like the way I feel about the opportunity to go to Cars Land is like how like a professor of like ancient Greek would feel about being able to like spend a day in ancient Greece.
That is incredible, and I absolutely love it.
Like, I don't know, I feel like every single detail. Like I wouldn't know where to start. Like I said, I would have a full panic attack of like crippling indecision and over being overwhelmed of like I there's so much. I've got to start somewhere.
It's very detailed.
Man, I
Very,
got to get out there.
very, very detailed.
All right. Let's see. With Mater's Junkyard Jamboree, one, this is just a detail I noticed in the ride video, is
Mhm.
that in the queue there you see like different hoods of Mater from Mater's Tall Tales. Like you see his Daredevil one. I think it's Mater the Greater, and you see a couple more.
Yeah, they're all there.
Which, just a real quick point, we already believed that Mater's Tall Tales actually happened in our canon. That's just another point in their favor, baby. You
Hey.
can't take it away from me that Mater has canonically time traveled.
Oh, I'm fully with you there.
Oh no, I was telling non-existent listeners who you all never like argue with me. I don't know why I get adversarial sometimes, but
We have the proof.
we do. It's in the pudding, as they say. Well, it's in the queue for Mater's Junkyard Jamboree. But
Speaking of cues, did you at all look into the Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters queue?
I like I said during the ride video, went through it, and you go through what is it, Casa del Tires? Is that what
Yep.
their store's called?
Yep,
Yeah,
you go through Casa de la Tires.
that seems cool.
It is
Man.
cool. It's very fun. You get to see all of the tires. There are so many fantastic pasta and car related puns. Like fettuccine tires is one of just a couple of them. The other ones are escaping me, but there's like different like Bura like stickers and stamps and stuff like that. It's really cool, actually.
Yeah. I think the white wall tires specifically are called Fettuccine Alfredo. Like the company is Fettuccine, the specific
Yes.
tire is Alfredo. Which,
I believe you're right.
moi, perfect, love it.
Absolutely zero mention of giant tires.
Yeah, gotta, man. I wonder where those went.
You know, I just
They're big tires and they could
really
fly.
couldn't tell ya.
And I know I said we could not talk about that anymore, but they are big tires and they could just fly.
They really can, and there's nothing we can do about it.
There's nothing we can do about it. They're canonically giant flying tires, maybe sentient because they do a dance tires in the Cars verse.
Sentient to the extent that they can only be limited to the movement of your butt controlling them.
Hey man, the story says that they dance, so they dance. I don't know.
Yeah.
The tires can dance, and that's pretty cool. I wish I could dance as well as a tire. Going on to the final ride in Cars Land. Let's drive. Let's drive right into. I didn't like that.
The big one.
Big one, baby. It's the Radiator Springs Racers.
Such a good ride.
The big takeaway I've had from this episode is, man, I want to go to Cars Land, but it does seem so cool.
It's a great time. Like, really, truly, that ride is so cool. The mechanics of it are so intricate. I know you've seen the ride video, so you have some idea of how like everything that goes down, but it's so cool to get to ride through the story. It's so cool.
It does seem like it. I think I read that it's the same system they use for Test Track in Epcot.
I would not know. I have not been to Epcot. I haven't been to Disney World.
It's a hoot and a half, let me tell you. They got giraffes there. But I have ridden Test Track, and I like Test Track a lot. But I could be wrong about that. Also, who knows? I don't have real facts. I'm a Cars podcast, man. But what is the story, I guess, of Radiator Springs Racers?
So basically, you are you're riding in the car, but we'll say that you are a car driving through the story, just to make things simple. And you start off, and you're driving through the the pretty area that Sally and Lightning are driving through on their little date drive or whatever. And you come across the waterfall, which is so awesome, by the way. Like, the video does not capture it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you're just driving through Radiator Springs. You get stopped by sheriff at one point. Mac almost runs you over.
Wholesome fun.
Yeah, you know. You go through a whole bunch of fun little moments with most of the car's characters until finally you race another car that has also gone through the same path, basically. There's one part of the ride that splits into two different areas, and you kind of get shuffled as to which one you're going to go to. You get fixed up for the race, basically, in one part of the ride, and either you go to Ramone's and you get a paint job, or you go to Casadilla Tires and you get new tires. And so that's how they split the cars into two, like, lines. And all of a sudden, there you are, and you go, and then it becomes an actual roller coaster, and you race. And one car does win, and the other one... and then you meet Lightning and Mater, and they say, good job, and that's the ride.
Nice.
Yeah! It's so fun!
One, just from the ride video, it does seem like just a lovely little survey of, like, hey, you're hitting all the points. You get to see, one, Radiator Springs at night, in case you aren't at Cars Land at night. You get to see it sort of all lit up with the neon, from what I remember.
That's correct.
You get to see some of the scenic vistas, as you described. The waterfall looked pretty cool in the video, but I believe you that is even cooler in person.
Oh yeah, it's really, really awesome.
I do like that. Just part of the sort of story of going to Radiator Springs is like, hey, you can get the full package. You can come here and participate in a race. It's the home of Lightning McQueen, the home of probably now Cruz Ramirez, I think, canonically.
Yes, I believe so.
And, like, all of these great racers, this is where the Hudson Hornet lived for so many years. I don't know. I think that's just good theming that I think folks would go there who are racing enthusiasts or, like, wannabe amateur racers, to as sort of like almost like a pilgrimage of, like, this is where Lightning McQueen, like, sort of, this is what he credits for, like, his return in his rookie season and all that, and, like, his success afterwards. I don't know. I think that's good theming. It's a good job.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that there are so many things that you can, that the ride allows you to go in and experience one of the main parts of the movie, one of, like, the biggest points of the movie, which is, the racing aspect, as well as also getting to go through and see a lot of characters in that ride, see a lot of characters in the actual land itself. Yeah, I think it's really neat the way that they have incorporated pretty much every aspect of, that story into one it's really a hallway. It's not huge. Into one pretty small stretch of land, so it's pretty neat.
Yeah, sounds like it.
I will say, you mentioned the neon. There is a neon ceremony every night in Cars Land that is one of the nicest things I have ever experienced. They play the Shaboom song, and all the neon comes on very slowly, like in the movie, and it is just the cutest thing I've ever seen. And it's something that I don't like missing if I'm there as a guest, because it's just very, very pleasant.
Man, I've known for a while that I've crossed over. Like, part of me was like, and still is, I'll be honest, like, ironically doing this Cars podcast, but, like, I've come to appreciate these movies quite a bit, honestly, and that does sound cool.
It really is.
It sounds really cool.
It's one of those, like, there are so many things that are, like, hidden, where if you happen across it, that is some Disney magic that you have experienced, and holy crap, does it feel good to happen upon that. And the Shaboom, the neon moment is so cool. And I think it's really fun to look for those around the park too, not only in Cars Land, but just knowing that they exist and that you just never know when you'll find them. It's so fun.
It sounds like it. Man, I gotta get out there.
You really do. We'll have a day.
That would be great, man. I would absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, we are getting there.
My heart.
I know. I too want to get into the sort of non-ride aspects of the park. Specifically, I have like one or two in mind. There are obviously several.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about the Cozy Cone.
Okay.
Because in the movies, it's a motel, but in the park, it's a food place.
Yes, every individual cone serves a different type of food.
1, cool. 2, is there like an in-universe or story explanation for what the transition to that was?
I think there was at one point that I learned, but I absolutely do not remember it, because that is something that I definitely have answered a question to more than once, especially since that is outside of the Cozy Cone, basically outside of Sally's office, is where Lightning and Mater meet, and Red on occasion, and Cruz and Ramirez. They all meet there, so whenever they're out in a oot and a boot, that's where they are. So I definitely knew at one point what the answer to that question is, but I'm so sorry, I can't think of what it is right now.
No worries whatsoever. I'm gonna give it a guess for like obviously a not the real answer.
Please do.
My guess, I think it'd be something simple. Like we don't need to go into like my meta theory about it being a theme park even in the Cars verse. But I think it's as simple as Sally knew that there were going to be a lot of guests, but not ones that were going to be staying the night. So she, being like Sally, is always shown as like she puts the town absolutely first.
Yeah, she's hospitality forward.
She would be like, oh, well, it would make the most sense if these aren't going to be used as rooms. People got to eat. Bada bing, bada boom.
I think you're right. Well, also, every cone sells something in them that is cone themed, because why wouldn't it be? Like, there's ice cream cones, there's the pop cones instead of popcorn. One of them has like a it's like a pretzel or like a dough, like some kind of bread dough that has like mac and cheese or like chili in it or stuff like that. It's really good. I told you, the food in Cars Land is so good for no freaking reason. 0, but it's incredible.
That's another thing. Like when I was having my conversation with Liz about like I need to spend a full day there.
Yeah, the food is dope for no reason.
Yeah, like I need to try every restaurant. Like
Yeah. There's I think I texted you this at one point. At Flo's you can get a cheeseburger, because of course you can.
Yes.
I know. But the Cozy Cone they're like individual, I mean they're all collective, they're all, in the same area, but they're all effectively individual little snack shacks.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I need to stop for 1 second because Beanz is absolutely insisting on walking on my keyboard. Let me, guest appearance by my cat, Beanz. Let me just get her out of the room really quick.
Man, while you are gone, I will comment on the fact, you may still be able to hear me, I don't know, that, man, Beanz is a good name for a cat. Fantastic name for a cat.
Beanz?
Yes.
Go on, honey. Go on. Okay, good girl. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, I named her Beanz, right?
Toe beans? Is that?
Yep, because she has extra toes. So
yes, I did know that.
Yeah, she looks like she has little mittens, and she's also black, like a little black bean. So I named her Beanz.
Incredible.
That's Beanz, by the way, for the people who don't care.
Hey, You know, there's a good chance I'm going to feature Beanz when I write the little episode description for this. And,
Nice! I'm sad she didn't meow. She has a very cute little meow.
I bet. I've sort of hit everything I know about Cars Land. So, and I've been attempting at least to hand you the wheel at several points, but I want to fully just right here at the end hand you the wheel entirely. What have I missed? What is there anything that you're like, hey, the listeners got to know that this is a thing? They got to know that in the line of this, there's this stuff like anything like that. If there isn't anything, that's also fine.
Sure, sure. There's a couple things that I can think of. One of my favorite ones that is such a conversation. If we don't have time for it, that's totally fine.
I'm willing to go as long as you're willing to go.
All right. One of my absolute favorite things about Cars Land is the Halloween theming.
Oh man, I knew about this and I didn't. Yeah, you're absolutely right. We have to talk about it.
It's really important, right?
Yeah.
It's really cute. First of all, they hang up tires and traffic cones to look like little eyes and fangs. There are little like traffic cone pumpkins everywhere. It's awfully cute. But one of the most bananas things that I can think of that is featured very heavily in Cars Land there's a zombie car, which I think I've texted you about.
Oh man.
And it's not just like, so first of all, one of the ways that they're featured, one of the first things you see when you walk into Cars Land is a giant like garage like hangar kind of on your left.
Mm-hmm.
And they have movie posters that are like car pun versions of movies, some of which are Pixar movies.
No, yeah, that was our Twitter header for a long time. Liz took a picture of that on her.
Yeah, so and they change seasonally. So there are Halloween ones, there are like scary car pun movies, which I believe one of them is like a Night of the Living Dead kind of deal. And then they change it at Christmas time too. There's instead of, they have like Christmas movies, and there's not a lot really that happens that's super interesting to talk about the Christmas theming. The only thing is the Leaning Tower of Tires turns into a Christmas tree of tires.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's nice, right? It's cute. But just something that I know I've texted you about that still just blows my freaking mind is there's a Halloween decoration off to the side that is a Model T that's crawling out of the ground. And every time that you walk by it, there's a sensor where it tries to restart.
Absolutely
and
incredible.
I saw that, and I knew I had to tell you about it because I was like, Lucas, this just implies that they bury their dead. It implies... it's just a classic example of this freaking land being like, hey, here's a bunch of questions, not a lot of answers.
Yeah.
It's just so bananas. I can't even believe it. They're just gonna put that there? Like, what the hell? They bury their dead. They do. Because that land is canon. That's what they do.
Like, even if you can explain it as this, even in the land, is a decoration, like, it has to be based on something. Like, even if we can't assume that zombies are real in the Cars verse, which, let me tell you, I'm going to assume it either way. Like,
I have a feeling, I mean, like, it makes sense to me that they would have like cryptid creatures.
Yeah,
because they've created them. They know, yeah, they have a concept of them from, like the movie posters, and then also Mater is a cryptid creature.
Yeah, for sure. But one, we know factually ghosts exist in the Cars verse.
They do, yes.
In the Radiator Springs 500.5, Stanley's ghost is there, and that just happens.
Yep, he force ghosts his way into existence.
It's incredible, and one of my favorite details of the Cars verse, because why would they do that? But even if it was just a decoration, that still absolutely implies that they do bury their dead, because why would, even if it was a decoration even within the story of the land, like, why would the car be underground otherwise?
Exactly. Exactly.
They would have to have the concept of that. And also in the Radiator Springs 500 and a half. If you haven't seen it, folks, it's a seminal talking point of this podcast by this point. You gotta. They go through
Get with the program, y'all.
that wild just spot in the forest where there are a bunch of broken down dead cars, and there are graves you can see in that scene. You can see in the foreground they pass graves. So you're absolutely right that they bury their dead. And like,
it's
wild.
Just bananas. Just absolutely just bananas. I can't think of another word for it. I just
Yeah, I mean, if it is just a real zombie.
Well, it does. I think I mentioned this. It does. There's a sensor on it, so when you walk by it, it does try to restart. It makes sounds like the engine trying to turn over, and one of the headlights tries to turn on, like it flickers.
I mean, again, that's absolutely wild, but like I think we can assume that like yeah, that's a real zombie because ghosts are real. The concept of undeath is a thing.
Yeah, it's not just a decoration, it's an actual zombie.
There's just a real zombie,
and they're fine with it.
It's like, don't worry, he's not gonna be able to start. He does this every year.
Yeah. You know, Gary just pops out of the ground every
this
year.
Guy, can you believe him?
Yeah, Mater's over there in his vampire costume, and Lightning has a superhero costume.
I did because I completely blanked on the Halloween decorations that they did. I did go and look at all the pictures of their costumes. We've talked extensively about Mater's vampire costume.
I do remember.
Because I'm not gonna make you say this, but I'll say it's not costume. He just transmogrified into a vampire.
But I do kind of remember you saying that, actually.
Yes. I do just kind of enjoy the fact that all of the costumes just imply, like, hey, Mater's a vampire, so yes, they have the concept of vampires. Lightning's a superhero, they have the concept of superheroes, so on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think Cruz is a pirate.
Yes, Cruz is a pirate.
Red is a clown.
From what I remember, yes. I think that's everybody that shows up around Radiator Springs regularly.
Yeah, so I don't know, it's just kind of cool that we can say like, oh no, yeah, they know what pirates is. Like, we don't need to like be like, oh well, maybe they didn't even have pirates. They did. Cruz knows what they are.
Yeah. Yep. There's nothing else to say. They
Cruz
exist.
Cruz knows what they are. So get off my back.
And somehow none of them are zombies, even though they know that they're not only, that they exist, but they're real.
You got anything else for us, or you want to close her out?
I can't think of anything else. Oh, well, there's one other thing. I'll leave the podcast with this disturbing fact. There's one. Yes. There's lots of storefronts in Cars Land. One of which, my very favorite, is tucked away in a corner, and it's called Mr. Curb Feeler. Now, what Mr. Curb Feeler does, I don't know, because as we have established in this podcast, there are no curbs in Cars Land. So what the hell is he feeling?
Yeah, okay. I've Googled the words curb feeler, because I've never heard those words in combination before in my life. Apparently there was something that were on old cars that were basically like little whiskers for the cars that helped them find the curb when they were like parallel parking. But you're absolutely right.
There are no curbs in Cars Land.
I was getting there. You're absolutely right that those don't exist. We've been over this.
So what is he feeling? It just seems real sus to me.
The fact that he's feeler's not a good word to be in a name.
Mr. Curb Feeler, and it's a storefront, so if you were to go into Mr. Curb Feeler's, what would happen? I don't know.
Okay, my guess is that... Okay.
I'm just saying, I don't want to infer anything because I don't want to get in trouble, Lucas, but I also really need to know what the hell's going on in that storefront.
Okay, my tame guess for it.
I don't think it's tame, but go right ahead.
I don't either, but I'll do a tame one. Is that oftentimes in the Cars verse there are things imported from like human world that like don't just make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a hearse, and like
Yep.
why is there a hearse? They don't need that. Why would they even understand the word for hearse? So I'm gonna say curb feelers are a thing. They just don't know what curbs are. They just know that they're called curb feelers.
All right.
Nah, that's my official guess for now.
All right. I think that's a wonderfully tame answer to a potentially very dark.
Yeah. No, my mind's going there, but I understand why we shouldn't do it with you on the podcast.
Yeah, feel free to unpack that one.
Oh, I do feel free. I think that's just about a perfect place to call it for tonight, folks. Thank you so much for listening to this wonderful, wonderful episode of this podcast. And of course, a big thank you to my good friend Emma for coming on here. Thank you so much. Genuinely, I had a blast.
Thank you so much for taking me down this side road. I'm so happy to have been here.
Good. I'm happy to hear it. If the people want to find you somewhere, do you want to plug anything?
Sure. I'm on most social media as @EMMTheBrave. Sometimes I post Disney content. More often than not, I don't. So if you know me, you can follow me. So I'm just gonna throw that one out there and say, go right ahead. And if you're curious, that's my face.
Are you still doing your Etsy?
I sure am. Thank you for mentioning that. I have
Yes.
an Etsy called Emma the Brave Shop. That's my name, Emma the Brave, and then shop. I do cross-stitch and embroidery designs of many, many, many different character outfits, mostly princess dresses, but I also do custom orders. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for mentioning that. I completely forgot that was a thing.
Oh, of course.
I'm a great businesswoman, aren't I?
Yeah. I'll say Liz ordered one and absolutely loves it. Has it hanging right by her bed, and
Aww.
I'm gonna talk quiet now. I'm thinking about maybe getting her another one, so be on the lookout for that.
I will.
Some sort of present.
All
I
right.
don't know if she can hear me, but that's fine.
All right, that's fine. If you, like I said, I do like custom ones too. So if you don't see it on the website, if you don't see it listed, there's a custom order button, and you can just put in what you would like the design to be, and I will make it.
Cool. Now for the rest of the outro stuff. I already said thank you, but you know what? I'll say it again. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. I really appreciate it. It's a weird podcast I do, but you listen to it anyway. That's cool. If you want to be a part of it, if you want to shape the flow of the chat by sending us questions and episode ideas and stuff, we need them so badly. Please do it. You can do so either at our email, which is thekachat@gmail.com, or you can follow us and tweet at us on our Twitter, which is @thekachat. Both of those are all one word. There isn't a hyphen in there, even though there's a hyphen in our title. Now I'm going to do John's stuff, which I think I've gotten a little bit better at. He says, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, but it's a podcast, so you can't do a lot of those things. If you can, please do them. But I'll add, please leave us a review if you can. A rating would be great. It just helps us grow. It helps us find fellow people who have burning questions about the Cars verse. And I think that's it. Oh, tell other people about it, please. That is it. Until next time, I'm Lucas Southworth, and don't forget to float like a Cadillac.
Do I get to say it?
You get to say it.
And sting like a beaver.
Done. Perfect.